Midnight TCG members. This is Midnight Fox, and we're coming to you with this week's Competitive Edge podcast. This week we have Ginzaki recording. We have Kyo with us this week.
Hey there.
And we have Ginzo, who got
what
his
it
mic
is, people.
fixed. He finally got his mic fixed, and he can join us. This week, giving our shout out to Jurassic Park and looking at dinosaurs. Basically, dinosaurs are the big reptiles of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not a whole lot as far as actual monsters are highly supported, but they are the big beaters as far as your big reptiles are concerned. That's just my thoughts on dinosaurs. What are your thoughts, Ginzo, on dinosaurs as an overall type?
Well, as an overall type, they're probably nothing more than, I guess, support. I mean, they have a couple archetypes which we'll speak about later, but just in general, throughout the history of the game, they've been nothing more than support.
What about you, Kyo? What do you think?
The first impression of dinosaur for me is they're a big hitter. Monster or a boss monster that's really hard to get out, but once you get them out, they're hard to stop as well. That's probably one of the reasons why it doesn't have as much support.
It's kind of sad to see with some of the types the way they do that. I mean, personally, for myself, I'd love to see more pyro support. And dinosaurs is another one I'd like to see more support from. Kind of rolls me into the first part of our podcast where we're going to go over our favorite dinosaurs. Kind of got to go back to this formula because, as we mentioned, dinosaurs within themselves are more support-based versus being able to make an entire deck based. So for the Fox, I'm going to go back old school for one of my first favorite dinosaurs. Hydrogeddon. Old school card. Made it very easy to flood the field. 1600 attack, 1000 defense. Not so hot in today's game, but back in the day it was pretty boss. And whenever it destroys a monster, then you get to special summon another Hydrogeddon. So, back in the day, before Synchros and Xyz, this was a really quick way to build up your field. Not going into like gadgets and running ultimate offering and stuff, but just a monster who could go through and beat on your opponent and summon other monsters. And the fact that he's also a water type, even back then, gave him support from cards like Legendary Ocean, Umi, and Umi Ruka, which could boost that attack and make it even easier to flood the field. Going on to that, before we get into staples, being that I like Jurax, I'm going to say my second favorite dinosaur monster was, with the release of Jurax, was Jurac Giganoto. 2100 attack, 1800 defense, level 7. And basically, every face-up Jurac monster you control gain 200 attack for every Jurac monster in your graveyard. So his stats at first sound kind of meager, but in a pure Jurac build, Jurac Giganoto is the big dog of Jurax, and one of the key elements, if you look at running that deck within itself, you definitely want to have Jurac Giganoto involved in that deck. And the Juracs also were fire type, so you could also look at fire support as a way of running that deck. But I like the artwork on it. I like the fact that it's a fire monster. Like I said last week when we were talking about pyros, even though Juracs don't burn, they still are a fire type. And it's a good type for beginner duelists to look at as fire type monsters. So, as far as my favorites, sticking to just a couple this week, little water, little fire. And with that, I'll pass it on to.
That I used to play from way back in the past when Scapegoat was at 3, and it's Mad Sword Beast. Um, I ran a deck that I called PoE, which we now know to be a rat box or an earth toolbox. And it was clutch back then. He had 1400 attack. I mean, he could be searched by giant rat, and he had trample. So it was an easy way to put pressure on your opponent who wanted to sit behind goats and hide to try and build slow advantage. Um, and so I think it was just a good meta choice, and for that reason alone, it's always been kind of like a dinosaur favorite, I suppose. And then secondly would be Tyranno Infinity. Uh, he's a favorite just on Mystique alone. Um, Although I wanted to build a deck with him for a long time, I never have. It just seemed like a little tedious. But he's got decent artwork, which is a topic I generally could care less about. But he just looks awesome. So there's that. And his effect is kind of intriguing. His original attack becomes the number of your banner's dinosaurs times 1,000. So if you could banish just 2 dinosaurs, he's already a level 4 2,000 attacker. I've always been a fan of anti-meta, the underdog project deck. I just never worked my way around to trying to build a deck with him. But now that I think about it, dinosaurs, macro, I guess I'll go to work a little later tonight after we're done. But those would be my 2 favorites.
What about you, Keo?
Well, similar to Ginzo, my old school favorites would be Girasaurus. You can special summon this card from your hand, but if you, the downside is that your opponent gets to special summon one monster from their graveyard. His benefit is that back in the old day, you drop him in turn 2, assuming your opponent going first. So you drop him in turn 2, then you tribute him to summon a bigger dinosaur, which usually is a really good move back in the day. And my second favorite is Hyper Hammerhead. Whenever this monster battle opponent monster, unless it destroys the monster will return to the owner hand at the end of battle step. So whether it's face down as a defensive, or you can also use it as attacking the high defender like Zenman nowadays. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, with favorites, that was quite kind of short. Takes us into staples, and I know we've all got our own dinosaur type decks want to look at, but tying into dinosaurs, I'm going to say that staples, just because later I'm going to go into, as far as decks, Jurax, would be Jurac Monoloth. He's a 3-star, 1,500 attacker that can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. You pop him along with Jurac Giganoto, and I like to consider him something along the lines of a Shura Priest, except he can get a boost, he doesn't return to your hand, and he's also a tuner. He's one of the key cards if you're looking at running a Jurac deck. Him and my next card, which is Velo, Jurac Velo, and whenever he attacks or is attacked, and he's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon another Jurac monster with 1,700 or less attack from your deck. Which I don't want to go too deep into it. But unfortunately, I kind of have to. The last one on that would be Jurac Quaba, which is the one that if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon a Jurac monster with 1700 or less from your deck, but it cannot declare an attack that turn. So those three cards within themselves are the main engine that runs in Jurax. I mean, there's other good support cards to it, and I mean, Tyrannus and all those are great, but as far as being able to run a speed game, those three cards are the basis of the Jurac deck, which I'll go more into the niceties of Jurax later in the podcast. But with that, I'm going to pass it on to Genzo.
Alrighty. Staples. It's a tough one, but I guess we have to kind of think about staples for the archetypes themselves, since you took Jirax. So I'll go with the Evil Sore and Evil Tiles. And just from the limited knowledge I have of the guys, I do know that Evil Sore Serato, who is a 1900 attack, level 4, his effect is when this card is special summoned by the effect of an Evil Tile monster, it gains 200 attack. And if it was special summoned by the effect of an Evil Tile monster, each time this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can add one Evil Tile monster from your deck to your hand. So that's pretty good. It's kind of like a battle tutor, if you will. And then I know Evil Tile Westlow. You flip summon him, you special summon one Evil Sword monster from your deck at level 3. Other than that, I guess just like for the Jirax, any cards you would add to that deck and the quantities would be up to player preference. So that's about all I have for them.
What about you, Keo?
I would go with Hammerhead because it can literally be in any deck, not even dinosaur deck. The other one would be Hanzo and Super Transformation because you can also use that to special summon the dinosaur from your deck. So
Fossil Excavation was also, I mean, if you're looking at pure dinosaur builds, cards like Fossil Excavation and
Oh yeah, Fossil Dig.
Fossil Dig, Volcanic Eruption, they're all great cards as well.
So are the Evo Diversity and Evo Force for the Evo deck. Yeah, I didn't even think about spells. My bad.
That about all you've got, Keo?
yep, for stable.
Well, kind of going on to decks, said I would go over a little more in detail. Looking at Jirax, I mean, if you're looking for your big beater, definitely in Jirax, you're going to want to look at Tyrannus. He's a level 7, but you contribute one dinosaur monster to have him gain 500 attack. He's already at 2,500, so he goes up to 3,000. Whenever he destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, he gains 300. So he keeps gaining and gaining and gaining. He can become a big beater. And when you're looking at Jirax on a whole, you don't want to forget, like I said, definitely Jirac Giganoto. He's going to be what's really going to boost up your field in a pure Jirac build. But also Jirac Meteor. He's a level 10 synchro that has the ability to nuke the field, and then you get to special summon a tuner back to your side of the field, and he's 2,800 attack. So if you're just looking at an ugly field on your opponent's side of the field, he's a good way to nuke it. Jirac Brachus is also another good support card to the Jirax in the fact that while another face-up Jirac monster's on the field, he can't be destroyed by battle. So he's a good staller in that deck. And I guess kind of to end out just if you're looking at building Jiracs within themselves, I want to make sure to cover Dino as well because he's a tuner, but he's your draw engine within that deck. During each player's end phase, if that card's destroyed an opponent's monster by battle, you can tribute a Jirac monster and draw 2 cards. Yes, you're going to minus your field, but you're going to plus your hand. Which in Jiracs or dinosaurs in general, if you're getting into, which we'll talk about later, like the Dino Rabbit decks and all, hand presence is key. And draw engines, as we all know in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to have them present to win games because if you have no hand, most of the time, that's your downfall. So with that, and my little thoughts on Jiracs within themselves, and as a deck type, I'll pass it on to Genzo.
So, I guess just to kind of wrap up the Evo deck, as I'm looking over all the cards and noticing the rank 6 Ixies monster, I'm going to go ahead and strike that from the record. I just don't think that version is that good. I think the deck and the support cards for the deck kind of like forces you to make Dolka and Lagia. And so like that's the main goal of the deck. Create advantage and then through said advantage put Dolka Lagia on the board and control the game. So that's what they do. And since that's kind of like a quick wrap up of that deck, I'm going to mention another deck from the past that if it wasn't for a dinosaur, there is no deck. And that's the Pink Ranger OTK or Black Patera OTK. And Black Patera is the dinosaur we're talking about. And his effect is basically, if I remember correctly, if he's sent to the graveyard any other way besides battle, you return him to your hand. So the OTK is 3 cards. Toon Can Soldier, Ultimate Offering, and Black Patera. And you kind of see how the combo works. You summon Toon Can Soldier. If it's good, it's a game. You know, you just keep paying 500, set your Black Patera, send him to the graveyard for Cannon Soldier's effect, burn 500, return the hand, rinse, wash, and repeat. So I figured I'd go ahead and mention that. It's an older deck, Ultimate Offerings at 1, so it's not really relevant, but it's at least a talking point for the dinosaurs, which don't really have that many.
Well, I'm going to have to digress a little on Soda, which is the one you're talking about, Evazor's Soda.
Yeah.
The big problem with that is the fact that Rabbit is what made dinosaurs relevant. So yeah, going into Lagia and Dolka is your better option. But the thing I do like about Soda that people overlook, if you can get out 2 level 6 dinosaur monsters, is that he can't be destroyed by card effects. So no Mirror Force, no Torrential, no Zen Mange. You can't hit him with effects while he has an Xyz material attached to him. And whenever your opponent special summons a monster, you can detach an Xyz material from this card and destroy that. I think what they were looking at in that was the whole triplicate there of Lagia, Dolka, and Soda being able to lock down the field. The only problem is Konami hasn't given us enough level 6 monsters in the dinosaur archetype that are easily played.
Well, that's what I wanted to mention since you went back to Solda, is, how do you say, the bang for your buck. The effort you put into just putting Lagia and Dolka on the field pays you back, whereas Solda, sure, he can't be destroyed, but what are the common cards that don't destroy? BLS, Chaos Sorcerer, Dimensional Prison, Compulsory Evacuation Device, just on and on. So it's, again, you know, Lagia, you're summoning, they try to compulse, you can at least negate that. This guy, you put the investment in, they hit you with a compulse or a D present, and you're just shaking your head going, okay.
Yeah, I really don't see a use unless somewhere down the road, Konami decides to give level 6 dinosaurs
Yeah, dinosaur, that's the
some
problem.
kind of good support because his downfall is that it's so specific. It's two
Yeah.
level 6 dinosaurs where you have so many other great options to go into that aren't that specific.
Now, one final thing on these guys in the Solda builds where you have to run those level 6 evil tiles or evil swords, whichever they are. Um, it could still be a good deck at like a local level. So, I mean, coming from a project player who that's what entertains him now, like I could see myself building a deck if I had the cards and running in it against my friends or at a local tournament, you know.
But yeah, it's your regional YCS
Yeah.
worlds. You're not going to see this guy in play.
And that's another thing to be mentioned, and I'm glad you did, is that the Evolsars have topped several YCSs, the ones that are the level 4 into rank 4 builds.
Dolka and Logia, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, and Rabbit was really the key that got a lot of people looking back at normal monsters. Uh,
Yeah.
Normal monsters within themselves have a lot of key component cards that people don't even take into consideration, but that's another day, another time when we can talk about normal monsters. But what about you, Keo? What's your thoughts on Dex?
Well, the deck is currently the most popular one is Dino Rabbit, with involving Cabazaurs and Sabersaurus after now summon your Rescue Rabbit, assuming you don't get Effect Bella, then banishes to special summon those two dinosaur, then proceeds to XY. Then depending on the boss situation, you can either attack directly for a massive amount of damage, or proceeds to XYZ to Lagia or Doka to get a better ball of a season. That's
Well,
pretty much about Dino Rabbit.
not to be forgotten, he is quite overlooked. I want to make sure to mention our rank 3 Xyz Grinosaurus, who was actually released in the first Yusei structure deck. It's two level 3 monsters, so he's not specific. It's 2000 attack, 1900 defense. When you destroy an opponent's monster by battle and send it to the graveyard, you can detach an Xyz material from that monster from Grinosaurus and inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So, if you're a fan of burn, that's another burn option. So I don't want to forget about him. He kind of lays to the wayside, and a lot of players overlook him. But
Yeah, it's just for the fact that rank 3 is so loaded with terrific cards. I
number
mean,
20, Giga Brilliant,
yeah,
Levier, Wind Up
Leviathan.
Zendames, Zen Mighty. I mean, that's just to name a few.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, rank 3 is probably the most loaded.
yeah, for sure.
Starting out, rank 4 probably would have been, but they have went way, way out of their
Actually,
way with rank 3.
well, they went out of their way with rank 3 because the tour guide. But actually, as I think about it right now, rank 4 is making a case to be the best rank. I mean, all the different options you have now versus when, just say for Dueling Network, you had more options than you had in real life. But we're starting to get some of those options now.
Like Black Ship of Corn just got released. And, you know, at first it was just like number 39. And, of course, we've talked about Shockmaster in the past, and now card I brought up pre-podcast that is quite overlooked that got released in Abyss Rising. But I think as players start to realize how feasible this card is One-Eyed Skill Gainer. Yes, he costs you three monsters, but depending on what you're going against, he's a good option to have in your extra deck because you can either decide to go with a Shockmaster and summon that, or if your opponent's just tearing you up with Xyz monsters, you can use One-Eyed Skill Gainer and copy their Xyz monster. It becomes that card's name. It gains its effect, but it's a 2600 attack, 2500 defense monster that can become a Zen Mains, Utopia, whatever you want it to become. So, I mean, it's a good answer in a mirror match. Just wanted to mention that for people who do listen to this. It's quite overlooked right now, and if you get the opportunity to pick it up on eBay, it's about $1.50 to $2 right now. I would definitely pick it up before people start to realize how powerful that card can actually be and the viability of having it as an option alongside Shockmaster. A lot of people just go, oh, Shockmaster, that's my 3 level 4s that I'm going to run as my rank 4 Xyz that cost me 3. But depending on your field, One-Eyed Skill Gainer is also a good option. Which kind of ties it into getting to the close of our podcast, looking towards the future of dinosaurs. For myself, I want to look, just because I have been running Water Rabbit here lately, number 19, Freezer Dawn. He's 2 level 5 monsters. He's Xyz, so he's not specific. It doesn't have to be dinosaurs that make him, but he is a dinosaur type monster. Once per turn, if you would activate an effect by detaching an Xyz monster, you can detach it from him instead of detaching it from, say, Zenmains, Utopia, Shockmaster. So think about being able to abuse Shockmaster not 3 times, but 5 times. That's what I really like about him. Looking at my Water Rabbit deck and definitely wanting to pick it up is the ability to abuse the Z's units that you use for common cards like Zen Mains, like Shockmaster, and getting more bang for your buck out of it. Yes, it's going to cost you 2 level 5s, but as we talked about in the card of the week last week, like Satellite Cannon is a good option to get out to the field, easily summon, easily special summon, can get you this guy out very easily, depending on the kind of deck you're running. But definitely worth a mention looking into the future, and especially with the last structure deck, the Roar of the Sea Emperor, and Abyss Rising hitting, and the water support that they offered. I definitely want to mention him, and I know that Genzo has a couple that's coming soon that he wants to mention himself, so I'll let him go over them.
Just a quick add-on
Okay, yeah.
about him. Since you mentioned level 5 is easy to get, and its effect is awesome, wild decks with wild sharks can easily get him out, and they can abuse even more with all the XYZ spam. But yeah, go on, Ginzo.
Oh yeah, were you saying that 2 sharks makes Freezer Dawn? Yeah, that'd be really cool right there. But anyway, we have Pyrorex, the Elemental Lord, coming out in the next pack, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's just them continuing on, you know, after Moulin Glacia and Grand Soil to keep up that theme, I suppose. And the obvious decks would be Laval, Handmaiden can make this guy live turn 1 or turn 2, depending on the quality of your hand. So that's an easy Pyrorex right there. And then the other deck types like the Haze Beast and the Fire Fist. If I'm not mistaken, the Fire Fist is a structure deck coming soon.
Yep.
And then I don't know how relevant or how much the player would want it, but I suppose the Evil Soar and the Jurac players could also drop this guy.
Fire Fist is actually shaping up, from what I've seen on Dueling Network, to be a pretty consistent uh, build. And I will give Konami that with the latest releases they've come up with the Roar of the Sea Emperor and the Mermels and the Atlanteans, and with the Fire Fist and with the Dragons Collide. They have been coming out with some pretty good structure decks that you could basically go out and buy 3 copies. And if you have the extra deck cards and the side deck cards, you can easily top at regionals and such with these decks if you just switch out a few cards within the deck.
Well, yeah, but also like Chaos Dragon, it kind of defined the meta really, so they can do more, is what I guess I'm trying to say.
They could do more, but these guys are definitely the Fire Fist, the Atlanteans. They're coming out fighting. That kind of makes me look forward to the next one that's supposed to release after Fire, which is the Wind.
Should be interesting.
I'm really hoping for more Harpy support, but as usual, Konami's probably going to let me down.
I hope so. I don't like harpies.
I love Harpies.
That field spell is silly.
I
But,
love the field spell. In a rabbit build with wind monsters, it's easily abused with Hysteric Party, 3 Call to Hornets, Monster Reborn, and every other way, like Leviair and everything, to just keep control of the backfield. Harpies are amazing. If you know
It's an interesting deck. But going back to the fire deck, just a quick thought, because you mentioned how well they're making structure decks. I kind of feel, and this just could be an initial thought from the limited time I have playing with them, and I have played with them a little bit, is they seem a little inherently weaker or kind of linear as opposed to mermaids, which I think, even though they have a specific goal, they're still pretty flexible.
Me, I like to customize myself with decks, so I like to stick more to the classics until I start to get down the entire mechanics of a deck. Like I'm just now dabbling into running a competitive wind-up deck. But that's just me. I like to stick with what's familiar, and I like to wait for a lot of support to hit, because as I've said time and time again, one of my favorite things to do in the game is to run 2 decks in one. Because
Like, are you saying the smoke signal?
basically, the first deck that I run, the entire deck, is based around a meta deck. So something my opponent's going to see coming, and they're going to side in for. So that when I go into round 2, I've put in a completely different deck, and their side was just wasted.
Oh yeah, I said smoke signal. I meant smoke screening, but yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do with decks, is to build 2 into 1, to be able to use that entire 15 cards and switch up the entire deck that I was running before. Like my water rabbits completely go away from being a water rabbit build into an anti-meta chaos build. So the people who side in to stop my rabbits are like, what the heck, I'm not even facing the rabbit deck anymore. So,
Oh yeah, I think Keo has a card dimension for the forecasting section.
Yep. And it would be number 61, Volcasaurus. Uh, a friendly card to go along with Freezodon. Similarly, it's just need 2 level 5 material, and it's pretty much a one-sided ring destruction. So it's just material, target one face-up card, opponent control, destroy target, and inflict damage equal to the original attack. So if you go against a big beta, just summon this guy, recharge your material, and that can be a really little damage.
And again, he falls under that. I'm a dinosaur, but I don't really care if I help other dinosaurs, because I could see this being an instant addition to the extra deck of a wind-up deck immediately. I mean, it's just really good, and it finishes games in a way that they can't necessarily do in certain situations. So, and Dark World even can start putting Silvas in their builds, and there you go, Volcasaurus.
And with Dark Strike Fighter gone, it's a good viable option.
Although he is not a replacement. Like, he's not the
No,
same
he's
thing
not a
at all.
replacement.
No. Dark Strike Fighter was a beast.
I miss Dark Strike Fighter.
Indeed.
Don't be about it.
Not as much as I miss Brion. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I miss Dark Strike Fighter more than Brionic.
I made Goyo more.
Goyo, yeah. Goyo's kind of right in between there. I don't know which of those three I missed the most. Darn you,
Trishula.
Konami.
I miss Trishula more.
I miss Trisha Lamore too.
I won't say I miss Trisha Lamore. Mine's
I like taking your cards and telling you no. You better have the Veiler or start crying now.
So I guess kind of to end things out, for all you new people who come and visit the site, if you haven't noticed, there's now a chat box where you can go in and validate yourself. As soon as an admin sees it, we'll get in there, get your account validated. Don't just disappear from our site and not come back. Usually I'm on about every hour or so, except for about a 5-hour stretch at night. And if I'm not on, someone usually is. So don't just come in, register, and disappear. Make sure you post in there. That's how we validate you. We're trying to keep the spam bot population under control. So we try to put up a pretty good wall. Welcome Thought Mage onto our team. He is in the Magic section now. So go in and take a look at his Commander Card of the Week and Worst Card of the Week articles. For Yu-Gi-Oh! Keep checking in there and looking at our Card of the Week, Worst Card of the Week, and Forbidden Reviews. As a few Flash tournaments back, our guys can tell you that the Forbidden Reviews and Card of the Week and Worst Card of the Week actually factored into the theme for the week, which made some people very mad, very angry. Make sure you're tuning in on Thursdays for right now for the Flash tournaments. Kind of got an idea of where this week's going, dinosaurs. But I always throw a twist in there. Make sure you check in on Thursdays. If you haven't placed your vote already right now, I have a poll in there. It is multiple choice. Trying to find out what day is going to work best for everybody. I've tried to work it around everyone's schedule. We started out on Fridays and went to Tuesdays, went to Thursdays. And so I'm trying to get a feel of what's going to work best for everyone because I do want everyone to enjoy it. We try to offer prizes to people for being members and for being active and for being inventive, most of all. So definitely go put your input in there. We love to get new players in there. Someone needs to take Keo down. He's won our last two. And kind of to end things out, want to give a shout out. We have a Win-A-Mat for Child's Play. If you don't know what Child's Play is, it's a charity that buys supplies and toys and game systems for children's hospitals. So for all the kids that are stuck in the hospital over the holidays, why have them be bored? You can give to this charity. It's $1 per entry. So for every $1 you donate, you get an entry, and it's for an Order of Chaos mat. And not only are you going to get an Order of Chaos mat, but this Order of Chaos mat will be signed by Little Karibo himself. If you're unfamiliar with Little Karibo, go take a look at Card Games FTW on YouTube. He does the Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series. Basically, it's the Adult Swim of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, kind of a little celebrity among duelists and people who like to frequent YouTube and look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. Definitely go in there. We still have our donations for the Duel for Akira. Right now, it's not for any prizes, but hey, you can still help the cause. And come around October next year again, we're going to run the Duel for Akira drive again, so definitely keep watching for news on that. But I think that's about all I want to cover. Keep coming back, keep visiting, keep bringing your friends. We still have the race to 8,000. Bring your friends. You got the chance to win an Exodia mat. Whoever has the most referrals when we hit 8,000 members wins that Exodia mat that's pictured. So just
Ben?
help us grow. So
I got a final thought, bud.
let's hear your final thought.
My final thought is this. Guys, don't watch The Walking Dead and make sure you use the Charlie Chaplin skin on Midnight TCG. That's all.